We're joined live now by royal commentator Edward Wang. Edward, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about this. Buckingham Palace doesn't usually, it's very unusual for them to put out a statement about the Queen's medical matters, given that they deem them as private. So for them to say something of this magnitude and that we're seeing her family gathering at Balmoral Castle, what does that suggest to you?
It really is a deviation from the past, practices of this particular reign, and it shows that the royal household is keen on giving as much warning as possible to the people across the Commonwealth that something significant is happening. It is quite telling for Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, to leave his children on the first day of school to travel up to Balmoral, and it is very telling for all senior members of the royal family to be summoned there. But if we look at past precedent, there has been situations where, the royal household will release health information about the monarch. In 1952, when King George VI died, that was a surprise, so we had no fair warning. But if we look at the prior change in reign in 1936, with the death of the Queen's grandfather, King George V, there were bulletins released by the royal household and providing updates on the health of King George. And the reigns before that, when the Queen Victoria died in 1901, she was on the Isle of Wight, and at that time telegrams were issued announcing, providing updates to the public about Queen Victoria's health, while all of her royal family members were summoned, some as far as Germany and Russia.
Edward, interesting, just as you started speaking, we have live pictures outside the gates of Balmoral Castle. We saw 3 vehicles appear to sort of speed into the gates there. Again, we know that so many of the family members of Queen Elizabeth have been summoned to be at Balmoral Castle, to be by her side right now, again, as doctors have these concerns for her health. I wonder, Edward, what you can explain to us about the procedures and protocols that are in place in the event of something like this, the Queen taking a turn like this in her health.
Well, the constitutional parameters are in place for the United Kingdom and for across the Commonwealth. In Canada, the Governor General is authorized to exercise all royal prerogatives of Her Majesty the Queen. So in an immediate downturn for Her Majesty, there's no impact on the constitutional runnings of Canada. In the United Kingdom, there are the Councillors of State. Currently, Prince Charles and Prince William are Councillors of State and could be authorized as well in a situation where the Queen, in the last hours or days of her life, cannot perform the functions due to incapacity. The Prince of Wales could be declared regent as well. So in terms of constitutional runnings, all of those are in place to ensure a smooth transition as we have a change in reign. But, this is very much a family matter as well. The Queen is a grandmother, a mother, and a great-grandmother of a significantly large family. And it's very telling that family members are being summoned now to Balmoral so they can spend their last moments or have at least an opportunity to see the Queen before any impending change or significant moment. There are procedures in place dealing with the passing of a monarch, 2 variations for whether the monarch dies in England or other parts of the United Kingdom, and 1 for when the Queen dies in Scotland. She is in Scotland right now in her Balmoral estate. So the events following her death will vary from the traditional plan where she is in England. Her body will lie in state in Edinburgh, first at the Palace of Holyrood House, which is the Queen's official residence in Scotland, and then at St. Giles Cathedral on the Royal Mount before proceeding down to London.
And Edward, you said that this is a family matter, but to the people of England, to the people of the United Kingdom, she is their grandmother. She is the only monarch they've known for most of the people in their lifetime. So can you talk about what kind of reaction you think is happening right now? We do have some footage, some reports of people gathering outside Buckingham Palace, getting close to the gates there and trying to, send their well wishes and prayers as well.
Even, I think the Queen is such a revered figure across the entire Commonwealth. For a number of Canadians, including myself, I do see the Queen as very much a grandmother figure. And this morning, when I woke up to this news, I have been quite shaken. As you said, she for many great number of people, she is the only monarch that people have known. So, she's been around for so long. People always think of her as such a perennial figure. And we have had warnings over the last number of years about her deteriorating health. But when the news actually come, and I do apologize, I am a bit shaky right now. When the news does come about this, we are still very much shocked about this impending event that's happening. And, I think it will really affect a great number of us from an emotional perspective. I'm really glad I took the time in June to fly to London to participate in the Jubilee activities. And I think, for many of us who do see the Queen as something both as our head of state and someone so personal as well, I think a lot of us will want to express our condolences and our feelings towards our monarch in a particular way. I myself have a flight booked already now for London for later this weekend to fly there. And I think, the British people, Canadians, the Commonwealth citizens, I think will be really reflecting on, a significant reign on someone who has been around for most of our lives and someone who has dedicated her life to more than 70 years of loyal service to the entire Commonwealth.
And remarkable royal service as well, taking the job incredibly seriously, over all those years, Edward, as you mentioned. But what is it for you personally about the Queen that you feel so connected to, or that makes you feel, as you said, shaky today? I mean, it's pretty obvious who the Queen is, but to you personally, I'm really curious.
Well, I was born in a communist country. I was born in China. I moved to Canada in 1992 when I was 7 years old. And I just remember the first time I walked into my elementary school and there was a portrait of a young, recently crowned Queen Elizabeth II. And I asked my teacher who this person was and what significance she had. And I think, my elementary school teacher informed me this was the Queen, and she's the guarantor of our freedoms and our constitutional rights. And, she is the emergency fire extinguisher that prevents us from falling into a tyranny and who protects our constitutional freedoms. But as well, just looking at the way she conducts herself in putting others first and putting the community and her peoples first ahead of her own comforts and ahead of her own desires, I think speaks very well. It speaks very much for why so many of us really, really look to the Queen with such reverence.
Yeah, Edward, thank you for sharing that personal story. I think we all have a connection here in Canada. We look at our quarter and it's the Queen's profile on it. So appreciate your time and your thoughts. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.